Right, let me start off. There you go, there's some people. Excellent. Always a good start. Good morning, everyone. Welcome.
Morning.
Thursday morning, almost end of the week. That in itself should make you smile, make you happy. But before that, for the next, well, I'm going to only take a couple of hours of your time. But yeah, welcome to, this is the fourth virtual discussion activity that I've run of this type. I'm going to say Happy New Year to you all, because even though it is February the whatever, and I forget even what the date, well, 40th, yeah, it's not far off Valentine's Day, and I know I need to remember that. But yeah, I've not seen you all for some time, so Happy New Year. May 2022 be an absolute corker for you. We're going to have, I wanted to get faces and names together from Welsh Local Government today, because what I'm trying to do, or what I've been trying to do over the last 6 weeks, is meet up with all the different groups of people that I've been running virtual events, and I guess prior to COVID, in-person events, and just get a feel for what it is that has happened within your organisation over the last couple of years that has been innovative, that has been transformational, and that can be transformational in a good way, but also, you know, sometimes obviously, you know, there's bad transformation, but you know, it's still always good to talk about bad transformation, because potentially we can all learn from it. Because I'm going to pick up and try and identify some key themes that I'm going to then run with over the year. Now, I've already started looking at, and I think this was one that sort of sprung out to everyone over the pandemic. You know, the use of data and how important having a data strategy is, and actually how important data is at a service area level, but also to have a corporate strategy that then means when you're working between service areas, that the type of data and the data quality and the way it's stored and the way it's managed and governed is all, you know, it's you know, it flows, and there's a corporate governance and that sort of thing, and it's been quite surprising in the last 2 years to do in presentations how many big organisations that you wouldn't have thought didn't actually have a data strategy, and then all of a sudden, when data becomes extremely important, then all of a sudden it's revealed that there isn't a data strategy. But what I'd like to do first of all, and I've got a number of sort of topics for discussion, and I also know there's a couple of people who want to say a few things about what they've actually been doing in their organisation. But what I'm going to do is, first of all, a bit of housekeeping. So this is a very informal session, and to be honest, it's very much Chatham House rules. So as you have popped onto the session, I am recording this, but only for my own morbid curiosity, but also to share with you guys. And what I am doing is I'm recording a video. We'll have a transcript and a sound file. So if, like me, you get stuck for listening to things when you're walking a dog and that's, or go running, God forbid, then you can you know, you can download this onto your device of choice. You can watch it later. You can use this transcript to pick up on certain topics. But my sort of cast iron promise to you is, this won't be shared widely or published. It'll only be provided to yourselves. So feel free to say whatever you like about your senior management team or other people that you work with, if you feel appropriate. Failure is good as long as we learn from it. So feel free to, again, share failure. No one else is going to find out. You know, when I sort of call out your name and do the introductions, if you wish to put your camera on, brilliant. If your partner, like my wife, tells you have a face for radio, then feel free not to put a camera on, or you're working from bed, which someone was doing in our automation activity. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around. I'm going to ask your name, your organisation, what you do there, and I guess one piece of innovation that you feel your organisation has really sort of produced and provided, you know, during the course of the pandemic. And what I'm going to do is a bit like celebrity squares, I'm going to go to the square on my right, and that's Rob Griffiths from Wrexham with his fancy background. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry, this is where I admit I wasn't concentrating. So what I meant to tell you about our
Right,
success.
Rob. Okay, right. Again, I'll do the old hello. Listen very carefully. I shall say this only once. Right. You need to tell people your name, where you work, which is good for Rob. He's got it behind him. What you do there, and then a piece of innovation or a piece of learning, Rob, from the last 2 years that you think your organisation is really proud of, and you think other people could benefit from.
Okay, good. So my name is Rob Griffiths. I'm Digital Services Team Leader here at Wrexham Council, and the thing I think that I'm proud of, or we're currently doing, is involved in a lot of process mapping to show actual value to the organisation, how we can achieve savings that can be taken out of, so to show real value to either customers or to the business. And in Wales, we've not, unlike in England, we've not had to make the dramatic savings that they've had to make in England. So I think for us, it's getting harder, and in Wales, it's probably going to get worse rather than better. So I think that's quite exciting. And I'm glad I'm in this position, rather than being the people helping identify the savings is better than being in your bits that are being worked out where you can make savings.
Excellent, Rob. And I think we're probably that sort of whole process mapping, process improvement, sort of demonstrating where the organisation is, being able to demonstrate where the organisation is and where it wants to go to, and actually how that might actually achieve a number of different benefits, including cost savings. I think is something that we will maybe come on to in a bit more detail. So thank you very much for that. Excellent to have you with us. My IoT friend, Hethin Griffiths. Good morning, Hethin.
Jump off mute there. Good morning. Are we okay?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
Tell everyone who you are, what you're doing. Still on the IoT, I guess.
Yeah, for a bit. Hethin Griffiths, I'm an Applications Projects Officer for Carmarthenshire County Council. I've been in the role for about 16 months now. Previously, I was in what was termed the technical services, doing the digital transformation there from paper to mobile, phones, tablets, everything like that. So basically going from nothing to about 150 operatives on devices by the time I left, which has now exploded to over 3,000 devices across the authority, which has been rapid in the past 2 years. Mainly the thrust has been COVID, but I'd already proven the way forward that they had nothing to be worried about, and changed that culture. So that's been it's been good to see those projects, because I still have a hand in those projects coming through. So because we're part of a strategy team, we sort of give the overall view on whether it's a good idea for certain teams to move forward and what benefit that would be to the authority. So to see cleaning staff now going on to mobiles, receiving jobs on mobiles, all this visit management, emergency responses, it's going to tie in very nicely with what my IoT is going to bring eventually. And hopefully I'll get back to the installations of LoRaWAN gateways next week then. So, and I'm learning all our buildings as we go along. So CCTV is another one on my cards. So, yeah.
Excellent. Good to have along, Hethin. And that sort of, it's always interesting to hear about sort of organisations rolling out mobile devices, and you're saying cleaning stuff there, because I've been doing sort of mobile and flexible working events for the last 15 years, and the problem has always really never been the technology, but more the sort of trust and culture issues. Yeah, you know, a crisis comes along and within 24 hours, what has taken 15 years, loads of events and loads of discussions, manages to disappear in a puff of smoke. But that's brilliant, the speed at which it's being adopted. Well done to Carmarthenshire. Good morning, Chris Owen, from a beautiful background there, Neath and Port Talbot. Whereabouts is that we're looking at?
That's Margam Park, Nick. So the jewel in the crown, as they describe it.
Lovely, very nice. Tell everyone who you are and what you do, and your the thing that you're most proud of your council doing over the last couple of years.
Brilliant, thanks, Nick, and good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Owen. I'm the Chief Digital Officer for Neath Talbot, with responsibility for digital customer services and CCTV across the organisation. I'm a relatively new appointment into the authority as of July last year, and what I've been focusing on is effectively a full review of digital services within the authority, basically unpicking the legacy and the backlog of challenges that have been built up over a number of years. I've developed a new target operating model for the authority, which we're going to be looking to embed over the coming weeks and months, aligned to the GDS digital standards and the Centre for Digital Public Services digital standards, along with a full restructure of the digital division aligned to the DDAT framework. So we've got our work cut out for us going forward. Quite a lot has happened, obviously, over the pandemic. One of the key successes, I think, they are really pleased with is the work that's been done around mapping local businesses within the authority to help the public understand what's on their doorstep. And it was a scheme called Buy Local. So they really promoted the local businesses. They supported them in being able to get their information to the citizens in those areas and link the two together, really. So massive impact during the pandemic.
See that whole, because we have a thing in the Midlands. There's a place called Leek, not far from me, where they started a thing called Totally Local, and I know there's a lot of other types of that sort of hyper local, shopping on, the high street has been absolutely decimated. So these sorts of initiatives are really useful in promoting businesses, and I think the businesses themselves have also had to get, I guess, quite tech savvy, sort of, even our local greengrocers has now got a Facebook page, and, it's putting pictures of all types of vegetables, some of which I know the names of, but, I wouldn't have been able to tell you, some of them look like things from outer space. Some of these things that people grow and sell, very expensive usually. The odder they look, the more expensive they are at our greengrocers. So no, it's good to see those sorts of initiatives, and hopefully, going out of the pandemic, that they continue to sort of support local businesses, because Jeff Bezos is the devil, as certainly our local hyper-local business organisation likes to tell us. So great to have you with us, Chris, and we'll probably come back to you at some point. Good morning, Kate O'Flaherty. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hi, Nick and everyone.
Are you well?
I'm good. Yeah, not too bad at all.
Excellent. Tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Right, so unlike Rob, you see, I'm more on the ball. I was listening to the instructions. I'm Kay O'Flaherty. I'm head of service for digital at Wrexham. So I work closely with Rob and the team. And I also manage customer services and corporate complaints and the digital media team. I think, I've been at Wrexham now about 18 months, moving up from Devon just after, the first week when you're allowed to move after lockdown 1. So it's certainly been interesting. Apart from the whole learning about Welsh and having to do, everything we build has to be bilingual, which was a very, very steep learning curve. I think, Rob's already talked about the process mapping work we're doing, and that's something that I've always been very excited about. But I think particularly now, because I've recently taken on management of customer services, we're starting to see the effects of what we're doing on the telephone volumes and on the, the reduction in people chasing for some of the things, where we've digitally redesigned around what's best, for the customer. and we're starting to see the difference in that now. So, you know, our telephone calls and things are dropping, and our percentage of traffic coming over self-service compared to mediated channels is going up and up. So yeah, it's just nice to see we're starting to see it all kick in a bit now.
Excellent.
So it's not all about the nasty stuff of, you know, just taking money out of the business.
Well, no, I mean, to be fair, well, certainly in English authorities, there's very little left. You know, short of, you know, sort of robots completely taking over. You know, it's now all about sort of triaging, you know, the skilled agents. I don't think there is that much left for people to take out of the business. I'm sure it's similar to Wales.
Yeah, and I think you know, the fact that we're doing it now in a very proactive manner and a planned manner means that when it comes, that when we've really all got to make those big savings, we're not just going to be top slicing services and just randomly cutting. You know, we're actually redesigning, as I say, improving the customer journey and making more efficiencies so that those resources can be redirected elsewhere.
Excellent. Good to have you with us. Thank you, Kay. Good morning, Sarah Ryan.
Good morning, Nick, and good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah Ryan. I'm Digital Access Manager at Powys County Council, which means that I look after the website content and also the Digital Powys 2025 vision work stream that is around customer-centered end-to-end digital processes. The thing that I'm most proud of, I'm so proud of my whole team throughout the pandemic and beyond and before. During the pandemic, we did so many amazing things in such a short time scale because everything was super urgent. We produced an interim track and trace process in about 2 weeks. We did a process to handle the food parcels under welfare calls requirement, meaning that we could automatically get names popping up on call lists for call handlers, and it would automatically know when was the last time that we spoke to that person. And so, you know, it would present a fresh call list every day, depending on, you know, the last time we spoke to the person. And it would record all their answers to a script, basically. And at certain points in the script, there were trigger points that referred these people to some of our support teams automatically. And so it really cut down on the amount of extra work that a call handler would have to do if there was a concern speaking to a person, because those things, those referrals just happened automatically. And so I was very, very proud of that. But alongside that, we've also managed to progress our work on the Customer My Account. And I think that this really has helped with the pandemic as well, because now that customers can see so much of their information and their interactions with the council through their My Account, obviously the number of phone calls has reduced, and so the call handlers are able to spend more time with the people that they really need to be speaking to. I'm really happy that we're using GOS ICM, and it's been so easy to put in integrations to back office systems. And the My Account, we've integrated with Northgate iWorld for council tax and business rates. And the thing that I'm proud of most is that we've just launched e-billing in time for this year's council tax annual billing rounds. So that's e-billing for council tax and business rates. And so I'm quite excited about that, because I think we're probably the first in Wales to do that with Northgate iWorld being integrated directly into our website rather than use the iWorld customer portal. So hopefully I'll get to show you a bit more of that later.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Excellent, Sarah. Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting. I really like the fact you sort of, you know, identified, you know, being proud of your team, because I mean, I've spoke to lots of local authorities over the last 2 years, and what's incredible is the lengths at which people within local authorities have gone to actually deliver, you know, additional services, people going into call centres and working incredible hours, you know, over and above what they're paid for, especially for the, you know, the vulnerable and shielding was absolutely incredible. So excellent. And now you've identified that you're happy to share a bit more of that with us, Sarah. I will be coming to you. So great to have you along and welcome. Good morning, Jason Long. Are you with us? Excellent.
Yeah, good morning, Nick. Good morning, everyone. As Nick mentioned, I'm Jason Long. I'm a digital improvement officer for RCT, Rhondda Cynon Taf, down in South Wales. Very much like what Rob mentioned in Wrexham. Obviously, when we went into the pandemic, we were supporting the general public for the first year. But the second year then, we went on to end-to-end mapping of process mapping within the business and looking to see how we could digitally enhance their process. So a lot of automation and stuff like that. The one thing I believe that we are proudest of is we starting our journey on LoRaWAN and IoT. So yes, we're just about kicking off that project now. So very exciting and very positive within RCT. So we are looking to expand on that and start looking at smart town centres. So we've got a lot of Wi-Fi in our main town centres in Rhondda Cynon Taf. So we're looking to build upon that in the next year or so. So yeah, that's where we are in RCT. Thanks, guys.
Jason, that is brilliant. Yep. Heffin, did you hear that? Heffin, are you two? I hope you two are talking to each other. If you're not, I'm going to make that a thing after this. You guys should be talking to each other. I think Heffin's probably on another call now, but he'll be listening.
Yeah, Nick, Peter Williams from LocalGov actually has given me Effin's contact. I haven't made contact yet because we're only starting, but I definitely would like to join up with Effin and see what he's doing down there.
Well,
yeah, I am. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, no, anytime, no problem.
Thank you, Effin.
Right, I shall make sure that this relationship blossoms, and we will hopefully get both of you to come and talk at a future session about how you've collaborated. So great to have you along, Jason, and thank you for surfacing the IoT work. Much appreciated. Marlon Dixon, good morning, Marlon.
Good morning. Hi, Nick. Hi, all.
Hiya.
So I come from this from a slightly different perspective in that I'm the strategic change programme manager for Swansea Council, looking after the wider transformation programme. But obviously digital is a top priority for us there. I'm hoping that some of our digital team might actually also be on the call and they can talk about their individual initiatives. Very much like Sarah, I mean, digital has been at the absolute heart of some of that big, quick, fast work that's needed to be done over COVID, and the team have just, they've produced everything that's been asked of them. But for me, the digital is a critical enabler, and I suppose the bit that I'm proud of and that I've realised over the last couple of years is the amount of cross-directorate working and more collaboration working that we've got going on, and I think that it's really good. And from us all working from home and working on teams, I think it's actually been made easier to just make that call and for people to work a lot closer together and start to understand each other's areas a bit more, which is really good. And then also the way in which we are really flipping the focus in Swansea to be customer focused and from a customer perspective, as opposed to users, what's the word? I suppose assumptions on what we need. And that's a piece of work now I think that we're going to really be prioritising as we move forward over the next year or two, is just that absolute, what is it that the users, the customers want and need, as opposed to what do we assume and think that they want and need. Excellent,
excellent, Marlon, and great to see you and great to have you along. So Yeah, I think what's really interesting, I sometimes, although I'm called the Public Sector Digital Transformation Forum, I think nowadays, we look at digital transformation, we take the digital away, I guess, first of all, and so and if this is going to be a lovely segue, I think, into what I think should be probably our first discussion point. But yeah, it's more about how do we make this service better for all the stakeholders. So like you say, the user, so user-centered design obviously is a key phrase at the moment, and user research, but then obviously other stakeholders such as the organisation as a whole, the people delivering the service, and then I guess we have to keep the bean counters happy, the people in finance, and I guess what's really difficult for local authorities and other local government organisations and probably central government, public sector, is keeping all of those people happy and having these sort of degrees of happiness and that sort of thing. But I thought what would be interesting. So I know Sarah's obviously got some really interesting things to tell us about. But what I thought, just for the next sort of 5-10 minutes, because I think it probably is the sort of the beginning of the never-ending journey that is digital transformation. Because obviously, this transformation thing is not a project, is it? It should be an ongoing process that actually never ends. And actually, there's a mate of mine who used to work in local government, did so for 20 years, and then has ended up at a consultancy called Tech, who aren't on this call. And we have actually, my manners, where are my manners? We do have some suppliers here, some of which you'll work with. In fact, you probably have all. So I think we've got Matt from Engage Process, and we've got Ian, and we've got Matt and Sean from Goss. We've got Paul and Andy and Dave from Netcall, and I'm interested to get their sort of perspectives as suppliers. And I guess actually what's useful is because you've got some of your customers on the call, gents, they'll be able to call you out if you tell fibs on this call. So that's always quite useful, isn't it? A sanity check. Yeah, I think the first thing to look at probably would be, when you start this digital transformation or digital evolution, as my mate Glenn calls it, because it shouldn't ever stop. It should be almost like a business within the business. But where do you start? You start, I guess, at looking at the processes that you already have. Are they fit for purpose? When were they last looked at? It's arguable that whilst there's a lot of transformation taking place in certain areas like, and we had a chat about this, I think, on our automation session, social care is certainly in England is very much a service area untouched by digital transformation of any type. A lot of people still using pen and paper at visits, going back, entering it back into a system. So what should really be an 8-hour, it's taken them 2 hours to get to somewhere, 2 hours to get back, because these people are never right next to the office. They always seem to be the people that need the social workers the most, are always miles away. But yeah, rather than using a voice recorder, which you can get for 50 quid at your local electronic shop, I only noticed because I adopted two lads ages ago, and we had a few problems with our eldest, so we had to have a social worker intervention, and they turned up with a pad and pen, and so I asked why this was, because surely it'd be easier to record the conversation, because then they wouldn't be concentrating on writing things down. And I heard the immortal words, "We've always done it this way." And I let them walk out the house without, limping or a black eye. But yeah, that's sort of, there are so many bad processes. Well, it's bad processes all over the place, but it's probably a lot of bad processes in local government, and that's only because they've not been changed for a long time, because there hasn't really been a need to change them. And it's only since Tony Blair went and talked about the modernising government agenda, and that particular genie came out the bottle, and then Cabinet Office started chucking money at central government, and then all of a sudden Peter Gershon came along and said, you will start saving money Shock horror. So let's talk about process improvement. Let's talk. Why do we need to improve processes? Answer me that. Anyone want to? This is an open discussion, so feel free to jump in. Do we need to improve the processes? Why do we need to improve the processes? Anyone?
Absolutely.
So we do, yeah. So we're all agreeing that actually, yeah, they are archaic, and actually, you've got to improve them because, in certain areas the outcomes are just not acceptable. From a cost perspective, from a citizen perspective, this is not good enough.
And a lot of the tasks within the processes are actually adding no value to that end person, and we need to get rid of all of that waste in our processes to ensure that everything that we do is adding value to what the customer needs to receive.
Excellent. Can I just say to everyone, I do know the answer to some of this. Please don't think, how is this buffoon? How has he managed to be working in this environment for 20 years and he's just asked that question? I'm playing devil's advocate. I am a buffoon a lot, in a lot of areas, but I'd like to think of 20 years I've picked up a few bits and pieces. But yes, you're absolutely right. Wastage, improving outcomes, and so we know that Wrexham obviously been doing some stuff. But Chris Owen, I'm going to come to Neath and Port Talbot. How do you sort of look at your process? How do you measure and evaluate how good they are, how they're fit for purpose? Because I know that Wrexham have been doing some stuff with Matt at Engage Process, so I know they're using that particular tool. But how do you go about it? And I will ask everybody else as well, just to get an idea, because there will be different ways of doing things.
Well, as everyone knows on the call, it's actually really bloody difficult. To engage in change and to get people to think differently is a massive, massive challenge. And over the years in East Talbot, we've had a couple of bites of the cherry at things like Lean Systems, Vanguard, and whatever the latest flavour of the month is. We've been looking at it, but the fundamental piece that you've got to look at is changing the culture and the mindset of the staff in the service areas to get them to think differently around the way they develop their services. I think it's not helpful personally to actually call it digital transformation, because as soon as people see digital, they start to get a mindset of, oh, this is people sitting in a cupboard playing with computers and doing all that. It's not for us. Whereas in reality, it is just transformation. It's around looking at what service we're trying to deliver to that end user, how we're wrapping that service around them, not thinking about the implications on the service that we're delivering, but the implications on the service that we're putting to them. So it's all about that user-centered design, as you know, making sure that we've got proper service designers mapping things through. But again, like I say, the service themselves have to get that that shift and that realignment in terms of, we do need to do things differently. There are new opportunities. Tech can be a facilitator, absolutely. It's a fundamental facilitator, I'd argue, but it's got to be around that end-to-end process that we really pin down.
And I guess, and we will move. So I'm not picking you, but obviously you've been there a fairly short period of time, but you're already coming in and talking around sort of GDS design principles. And how has that been received? And I guess if you were having to give advice to somebody else wanting to go into an organisation that probably hasn't experienced, if you were to go in there and go, right, we're going to look at GDS design principles, sort of service design, and people just look at you blankly, or just turn away from you in disgust. How do what's your experience been, and what would you say your best learning from it is?
I think I'm in a fortunate position in East Talbot because the previous chief digital officer is now the chief exec. So buy-in at the most senior, you know, it's a bit of
Winner.
a perfect storm coming together, but you know, you've got buy-in and understanding at the most senior level within the organization. So where I'm making a case for change within digital services, the restructure that we're trying to bring through, the reason why, you know, we need a data team, we need to have a data strategy, data should be informing all of our service designs, you know, and how services are being constructed, moving away from all the anecdotal feedback that we've got. You know, my chief exec gets it and understands it. So that's pushing an open door. Takes us down a layer then to obviously the directors across the individual directorates. And I think what I've got to do is work with them to contextualize it for what it means in their space. So how can we make, you know, quick wins in some respects to get them on board and get them bought into it, but also then the longer term strategy as to how, by adapting some of these new ways of working, we can actually make it easier for them to meet the overarching corporate objectives, our well-being objectives, and everything that we're here to deliver, which then obviously our members need to be cited on, to scrutinize us against, and to hold us to account against as well.
Mm. And because I guess one of the other things that when you've got people delivering service, I guess this would include the predominantly frontline workers that actually are engaging with people and actually maybe see the fruits of their labour, as opposed to maybe someone in a back office that is, you know, a number of steps back in the process and probably doesn't see that. I guess you need to maybe understand what drives them with regards to doing their job. You know, is it just this is just a job, or is it that, you know, if they were to see that by changing something, this actually provides a far better citizen experience outcome, or, you know, it generates X for the organisation if they're that way inclined. I guess some people are really sort of driven by, you know, sort of targets that are figures, and then some are sort of more altruistic in their endeavours.
Yeah, I think that's where you've got to go through the end-to-end processes, isn't it? You know, you've got to really look at the person on the end of it who's delivering the service, the person who's receiving the service, and then everything right the way up to the management chains, etc., and map that through. But I think you've also got to look at then some of the local factors. So, for example, you know, in that example you just mentioned there, a lot of the staff in Neath Talbot live in Neath Talbot. So where you've got a lot of people who live in the authority, you've actually got a vested interest, or you've got to convince them they've got a vested interest in making sure they do the best possible job, because at some point in the future they may need to access that service themselves. And you know, there's fringe benefits then, you know. So again, it's that contextualization, I think.
Yeah, brilliant, Chris. Thank you. Hethin, what about in Carmarthenshire? Because you've obviously, you know, you've had a big role to play in your staff, you know, going from paper to digital. Maybe I could draft you into Derbyshire County Council. Maybe we could do a sort of you know, a 6-month council swap, so you could come and get some of our social workers onto mobile devices. But how does it work at Carmarthenshire with regards to sort of looking at the processes and evaluating whether they're fit for purpose?
Yeah, I'm part of the digital transformation strategy team, and what we're finding is, I'll go through an example really. So every time we change our bin strategies in terms of collections, okay, we look at each point along through the services. And we're looking at where the pinch points and the bottlenecks are. And what we've come to realize is we just need to put some chatbots and RPAs, robotic process automation, in place. It's just a bit of AI really. Yeah. And basically what we're trying to do as a strategy is sort of promote AI in these sort of mundane tasks. So it basically, it'll become the norm in about 10 years time. So when we're being slammed by thousands of calls, so we'll do a bin change that might affect like 30,000 residents. then we know how many chatbots we need to switch on to help the contact centers, and what sort of data then we've recently appointed a new like data management process. I don't know, like a manager sort of director approach.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in going down that route. I've done my time building thousands of reports. I don't want to do that anymore, but it would be interesting because I like the advent of Power BI as well. I like the mapping elements, especially within the platform. It's very visual, and that's what our managers have been lacking to date. They're just given flat sheets of data and they just go, yeah, okay, there's a problem there. We'll just slam, some more resource at it. We'll get it. The best one I've had recently, and I still don't accept it, is a business support unit. So it's this whole team was developed. We have this joke about it, like the BS team, but it makes sense because what should have been money that was invested in process automation, a bit of AI, systems improvements, has gone into paying for more staff under a guise that our councillors accepted. So that's going to fall. That's going to die a death very soon. And when that turns its head back around, we'll be able to concentrate more on the AI side of things. So I hope that makes sense. Sorry, I'm rambling on a bit.
It does. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, it's the data strategy that I'm keen on. So basically, we do a bin change now, and then we look at how it affects things. When we come to do it again, we know where to slam the resource at. So turn this business support team into specific targeted areas.
Got you. Yeah, brilliant. Excellent, Hethin. Thank you very much. Go on. Let's have a word from you, Kay, because obviously this is your area of expertise.
Don't know about that.
I've made it your area of expertise. No, I mean you've obviously been doing a lot of stuff, and it is it is important.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason I was interested in the move to Wrexham was because I knew at interview Wrexham had a very ambitious plan. The fact that my role was a new role was good. So, and that appealed. And I think it helped that I had done a lot of work in this area around process redesign in Devon, which is where I was before. I think for us, we're currently doing a really big piece of work with social care. So I just messaged Rob and said, oh, we're actually, we're doing something good here. We're a bit ahead. So we're, and again, it's involved extensive, as is mapping, but we're working very closely with the sort of early intervention team in social care. So what we're doing in a very brief nutshell, at the moment, referrals for those early low-level kind of issues are definitely growing, obviously, because of the demands, on people with mental health.
Sorry, Kate, finance. Just before you, so are you talking about adults or children's or both?
Both.
Right. Okay.
So basically, at the moment, all those kind of inquiries come in arranged letter, face-to-face, over the phone, via someone else. And they kind of get triaged, and some things can be sent to, perhaps if it's a benefits thing, they might get sent to housing, they might get sent to a charity. Obviously, some things are picked up within social care themselves. So we're not talking the serious safeguarding issues. That's still very much, ring this emergency number, we'll get it done. So it's kind of the early stuff, but it's hopefully capturing those issues before they become really big problems, which could then cost the authority a lot of money upstream. So we're putting in a shared services portal. We're with Granica, so as part of Gov Services, it's a shared services portal. So that means that all partners can log into it. They'll all have their own security settings. So the idea is that voluntary sector, various teams across the council, so housing, social care and so on, and health will be able to log in and get those referrals once they've been, some will go through automatically based on business rules, some will be triaged where they're more complex by a series of hubs, and then they'll get sent to the right place. But all that work, as I say, it's a massive piece of work, very ambitious for us, and social care themselves, Rob will say, you know, initially they were like, oh, what's all this? You know, what are you trying to do to us? They've been great, and we're working with it through the whole, although we've mapped it as is, through the to-be design, we're working so closely with them, and they're actually fundamental to what that portal will work like.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting. We're not there yet, so we certainly can't sort of show off or share, but hopefully, you know, in the next sort of 6 months, we'll really start to see stuff, and we're going to do it in sort of small pilots. So we're going to, you know, test, and obviously, you know, reiterate, and it's
agile principles, which is good. So just quickly on that before we move. So someone would come. So a referral comes through. So when someone makes a referral, do they know that it's going into that it will go into a shared services area, and then will be signposted to the relevant
so on the web page,
so how's the, because again, when we talk about social services and they talk about, it's all that you can't share the data, you know, so how have you
it will only, so for instance, I think it was quite good, social care came up with some use cases. So there was one, and it was you know, a mother of children, her husband's in prison, obviously, so she's got financial impact, there's some mental health stuff going on, there's the fact that she's got a partner in prison, so there's all those kind of, so there's kind of multiple things. I think that also in the example it was, you know, they're potentially going to lose their house, so that would come through, and then based on what she needed, so she needed some financial support, some support with housing, perhaps support with charity who works with, you know, families of prisoners, that kind of thing. So the bits of that referral, that query, would only go to the relevant hubs that needed it. So not everyone would see it. Someone in health wouldn't see it unless there was obviously a health issue.
Brilliant.
So it's, again, the security around it is probably causing sleepless nights for some of Rob's team, because ultimately, you know, this is different. If we got security wrong, with picking up a missed bin, okay, councillors might complain and it'll be on social media, but it's not the same as getting it wrong when you're talking about a case like that.
No, sure.
So, you know, that's critical to it, but that is what the whole shared services portal is about. But you can also use it for lots of different things. It doesn't have to be just for social care.
Rob, just quickly, because this is actually, and sorry for railroading this process improvement, because I think this is this for me is quite an interesting project, in as much as there are lots of authorities up and down the UK probably wanting to do something like this, but not because of the, you know, it's always the data's always an issue. And I think probably it's just having good governance and a good strategy and an understanding of who needs to see what and when, and that sort of thing. But how difficult is this particular data issue and the security issue?
We're still trying to get our head around exactly how it's going to be done. So it's been written down and proposed, and theoretically it's going to be, you know, that so the idea is that the users will go to a website and it will have a series of questions and stuff, which they will basically, it will try and point them to services directly or to answers for information. So the idea is not to get them to fill in a form unless they have to. So basically it'll get them through a period, and if they still haven't got what they wanted, it'll say, okay, fill in this form, and it starts the referral process. It will come in then to an administrative team who will then review it to see if it's urgent, and if it's urgent, it'll go straight through to you know, like an important, you know, flashing landline phone number and get the police in or whatever. But everything else, they'll look at who it is, and then they'll triage it I think that's the term that we used.
Yeah.
And then say to organizations, because there may be a couple of different organizations that could supply that service or help that individual, and we'll ask them, can they help? So they'll both get potentially the same top level information. So it'll have nothing other than this is this scenario. They need help regarding this and this. Can you help?
Right.
And until they say yes, they don't actually get any information. But once they say yes, the case comes to that organization. It's linked to them.
Right.
And they deal with it. And each organization has a number of users, and those users, if they drop out of that organization, can be removed.
Right.
But anybody in that organization can still see that case, because that's as granular as we can make it without making it ridiculously difficult to manage, because it's going to be difficult enough to manage it because of the way permissions work.
Right.
You kind of it's so we're pushing the shared services portal to the limit, because it's being used in a way that I don't think Granicus have used it yet.
Right.
Which is, that's good and exciting.
Yeah.
So scary.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. But no, really, well, going to watch you. I'm going to. I'll keep in touch, because I think this is the sort of thing that, if it works well, then you've got a blueprint. Certainly with the process, the way that you've mapped the process and that sort of thing. I really like the fact that you actually, you're letting these sort of third-party organisations know that there is an issue without actually giving them any of the sensitive information. Like you say, can you, and then actually sort of pre-qualify themselves as a potential support organisation. And I guess once they've made that commitment, then that's when that's when it becomes a potential case, I guess. And
yes, so we've gone through it with our ICO, the critical governance people, and have signed it off. We're working with Granicus to make sure that what has been signed off with ICO is achievable, and all that sort of stuff. And then we have to build everything to fit around the process, so that we mark data that's only accessible. So you'd have to make some data as accessible when it's allocated to any organization. So that's when they get passed through the top level information. And then we'll have information that's only available based on criteria. So when it's been allocated to that organization, then they can see the rest of that data, but not necessarily all of it. They would only see what they need to see. Yeah. And that's where we've got we've got potentially 3 tiers of information linked in with that referral form. So some of it is passed over. The next level of information is passed over if they've accepted the case, and then we as an organisation have access to it all.
Excellent.
I think just to sort of sum up, what's really good as well is that the social care team and the head of service for social care are really excited by it. And she's messaged me and she says, I'm sharing the kind of multi-agency meetings and collaboration work that they do, obviously in the sort of social care field. So the fact that they're shouting about it clearly says they don't feel like we're doing it to them.
Yeah.
And I think they can see, they are snowed under by that rising demand because of, the effects of COVID on mental health, on the economy, and, it's not going to get any better. Those demands are going to get worse.
Yeah.
And I think they can see how it can really transform the way they do things and then free up some of their time to deal with the really complex stuff that they need to be doing.
Excellent. Again, once it's comes to fruition, please sell on your learning to Derbyshire County Council. They are certainly in need.
Well, that would be like going full circle. I started in Derbyshire 20
did you?
years
Right,
ago.
Go and sort them out, please, Kate. They are an absolute mess.
So they've improved in 20 years then. That's
God. Right. So before we move on to Sarah sorry, Sarah. I've completely lost my train of thought. Powys. Yeah. Sorry. Do you know what? Just before I come to you, Sarah, I just wanted to ask. So it's just Marlene quickly at Swansea, obviously because you're strategic change programme lead. You'll have a take on your process improvement at Swansea. I mean, how are you doing it?
So across different services, it's happening in different ways. And a
Right,
bit
okay.
like Neath, we've been down lots of, kind of buzz programs at the time. So our previous transformation program did use Vanguard, maybe 7-8 years ago. So there's lots of different, some services picked it up and run with it, some not so much. So we're actually in the middle of designing a new program that will commence end of the summer this year, and that hopefully will have a structured methodology in it that we can share out across the organisation for looking at our processes and our, the value to our customers, the purpose of each service and all of that kind of stuff. So not until after the elections, and we've got new chief exec being appointed in the summer too. So once that's all in place, we're hoping this will then be our new transformation programme.
Excellent, excellent. And let's hear from these lovely suppliers who will all have process improvements at the very forefront of their minds. Not selling things, but making things better. And do you know what? I think firstly I will come to my process improvement expert. He's without newborn child this morning. We had a newborn child on our call yesterday, didn't we, Matt? Young Zach was testing his lungs to the best of their capability. So I hope you're getting a good night's sleep every night. But you obviously, you guys are working with Wrexham and a number of others. How are, when you're speaking to local authorities around process improvement and the stuff that engaged us, and obviously, you do a lot of Dutch LocalGov, and I guess to a certain degree a lot here. When you're going in to see people, are people doing it on the back of fag packets, or are they using other products, or are they just taking their existing processes and, God forbid, just sticking them on digital channels?
I have a question. It's always, I think, shocking just how many different approaches there are in LocalGov, despite having the same challenges. Everyone seems to find a new way to do that. I think the one thing that we always try and push and encourage people to do is really put their teams at the core of it before you make that change. I know there's been a lot of talk about changes and using technology, but if we don't capture the current state and clearly understand it into the nth degree, then any change that comes on from that, is it going to be the right change? And I know we're really encouraging people. There's one English council that we worked with, and they would do the workshop, ask people questions, take the notes, and then go away and draw it outside of the session. We'd really encourage them, well, why don't you try drawing it in the session with everyone in the workshop? And immediately they found people were a lot more receptive. They were more willing to try things differently and were being more honest. And they were having a higher quality of conversation when they're asking people about failures and mistakes. So, I guess I always say, it doesn't really matter what the tool is, but you really should encourage people to, focus your change around the people that are doing it, rather than, as we said before, in the back of an office. I know that's what we really try and encourage people to do. It's hard.
It's a great point, actually, and I don't think probably it just sort of is something that should be considered when looking at sort of the very beginning with the sort of process improvement. But I guess having that sort of engagement and buy-in all the way through that sort of the journey. Keep talking about the journey. It makes me feel almost like I'm a well-being coach or something like that. We're always talking about this journey, but it's Marlon?
Yeah, can I just come in and ask a quick question off the back of something you just said there? So you said, or you asked, are organisations just putting their current, maybe not so great processes and into a digital process and leaving it go, or are they actually fixing the process and making it the best they can? And then, is there, from your perspective, or from all of you guys, is there a place for both? Because I would think, or in my mind, I'm thinking, if we're going to put something into AI or use robots, for example, what do we really have to spend all that time changing the process? Because they will just do that process.
Got you.
If we put it in not so great, it doesn't matter if the robots are duplicating or because they can just get on with it so quickly. Whereas if in other circumstances, there might be times there where you do have to change the process and get the process right before you automate it.
Kay, you had your hand up. Go on, have a...
I think I've kind of had experience of doing both. But I think that if you don't change, even if robots are doing it, so in theory, you know, the robots are doing double handling. If your end-to-end process isn't right and that you've not taken that opportunity to do that work up front, there will still be failure demand, because like I said before, you know, whether it's pressing a web form, pressing submit, or talking to a, you know, dealing with a bot, customer expects something to happen. So then if that process doesn't, because you've got that waste in there from previously, they will then just chase, and they will then move to a more traditional method to do that chasing, because they'll say, well, that bot didn't work. Yeah. I'll ring them up. So I think it is slower, and I think sometimes, and particularly at Wrexham, Rob will agree that when they first bought Granicus, because they had to shift, all, you know, they had a lot of quite a big buy into online, had web forms in existence on the old system. They had to do a shift because otherwise they would have gone back, started off with nothing and taken a huge step back. So now at Wrexham, we're doing some new stuff and redeveloping some of that old stuff. Whereas where I was before, we didn't have much of an online offer at all. So we did literally do every process end to end. And I always remember going to sort of conferences and things, and people, or workshops, and people say, oh, we've got 120 processes online. And I think, oh, blimey, we've only got 20. But ours had really changed the way we did things. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, right.
I guess also, Marlon, I would imagine that, you know, there were a lot over certainly in the first 6-9 months of COVID, there will be a lot of process where there was just no time. You know, certain processes that hadn't been shifted already during that sort of 2 or 3 year period of, you know, when channel shift was the only thing that people did. At least they had time to look at the processes, whereas with COVID, it was just a case of, right, we need to get this online ASAP. And then I guess people over, as we come out of it, and probably even now, you know, you've got that time to go back and iterate and have a look and that sort of thing. And I guess, like Kay said there, it's quite interesting. The guy at Derby City Council, who's a friend of mine, who's head of customer service in digital, what they found at one point when some services have been put online, but they've not looked at the processes, and so there was failure demand. And at one point, the same service request was being submitted 7 or 8 times via different channels, because one, it wasn't an omni-channel approach. So it's not like you could go, you know, you could do a web form and then go onto Facebook and it's say, you know, you've already reported this and this is and this is where you're up to. They were just, you know, it was incredible the number of multiple requests via, because also there was no level of expectation. And you know, we talked about this during our citizen experience session, which we're going to be running monthly citizen experience sessions, because that again seems to be something that a lot of local authorities, again, putting the citizen-centric design and that sort of thing, setting that level of expectation. So, you know, if somebody reports a pothole or reports a broken street light, you know, they're almost given the, you know, this is the next stage of the process. It will go to X, and they have Y in which to fix it. If you don't hear back from, you know, if you don't see it fixed by then, and I think, you know, I'm going to come to Sarah in a minute, you know, having the sort of my account type functionality, an opportunity for people to actually go into, you know, their own account and see almost what an agent would see, so they can see exactly, you know, there should be no reason whatsoever for them to contact them, because they're seeing exactly what the agent sees. You know, there's nothing else that can be done, but they've got visibility of where it's up to in the process. Again, this sort of Amazon-like, I keep talking to Amazon Web Services about doing an event, because people keep talking about Amazon-like, you know, services. Yeah, Amazon Web Services are being used probably by every single local authority in the country in some way, shape or form. It would be fairly sort of, I guess, one-dimensional, because they're not big on fancy, fancy colours and but it does what it says on the tin, sort of thing. So Matt, have you got any more sort of observations? Then Paul, Ian?
Yeah, I just think on the point about automation, obviously you're just duplicating the waste, and then you sometimes make it more, as you've clearly said. People then have to do twice as much work, and it's trying to help them. So I guess from a staff point of view, making sure they don't have to do three or four times as much work. And just thought of another specific case where someone had taken it and they've been really successful. I think about the process first, but ultimately, in the demands of COVID, I can imagine that's easier said than done sometimes. So there's need to must, I guess.
I think also you're right, because the bots, let's face it, bots, it does automate. It does automate processes, but potentially, if they're duplicating waste, they're actually wasting their time, and you are paying for their time, albeit they can work 24/7. They don't need lunch breaks, etc., etc., etc. You're still wasting their time, and actually, what you want to be doing is maximising and capitalising on having that automation technology in there. Mr. Hewitt, do you have any pearls of wisdom for us around that?
I'm reflecting on one of your past events, actually, Nick, and it got me quite enthused. And it was all discussion about the user journey, and this is all to do with process. And I was going to reflect on a little story. It's obviously showing my white hair, but I did about 35 years ago it was. I was asked to go into a council. I won't name which one. It's one of the Sussex councils, to build what they called, sponsored by the CEO, to build a corporate data model. And it was all about, at the time, obviously, it was all paper driven. And you'd have these people, and you probably, everyone remembers the multiple sheets of paper, and you had to press really hard with the ink on the paper to make sure it got through to the pink copy at the bottom. And people were filling out these forms, obviously paper. And then as part of the corporate data model, we followed each of the copies. The yellow one went there and the pink one went there. And we went to one of the ladies in the council, and I said, well, what do you do with the pink one? Oh, I put 2 holes in it, and I put it in that file, and then I put it in the in the filing cabinet. And I said, well, what happens to it then? Well, I don't know. It just goes there. Does anyone ever access it? No, I don't think so. The reason I mention this, the theme you said was data, and I think it's important now with the proliferation of data that the data is accessed by people pulling it when they require it, rather than pushing data to people who don't actually need it. Because what you're doing, it's a bit like the old filling up my email inbox. If someone sends me something, then you're likely to read it. But if it was something you don't need to receive, then actually you're wasting your time. So talking about bots are about pulling data on a request, so that the data is being pulled because someone needs that data and they've requested that data. Does that? Am I talking rubbish here? So it's about making sure that data is being pulled because people need it, rather than being pushed to people who don't need it because you're wasting their time. Is that?
Marlin, are you agreeing with the sentiment, or are you agreeing that Paul's talking rubbish?
No, I am agreeing.
No, you're agreeing. No, of course, yes. You're spot on. You are spot on, Paul. I'm just winding you up. Mr. Patterson or Mr. Barnes, before we come to Sarah and another topic that I'm sort of really keen on, your plethora of customers, how do you find them? Sort of, do you process improve with them, or have they done that before they engage with you? What's your experience of the process improvement strategies within your own customer base?
Always good to see you, Nick.
Excellent. Well,
as always,
already there's a tick against your name. So
well, let's get it in early. It depends. It purely depends upon the resource that the authority's got. you know, if they're lucky enough to have BAs in place who can do it, then they would normally provide us with a spec to sense check or see whether we can help them in parts of it or in whole, or they just carry on and do it themselves, as Sarah's team do.
Yeah.
You know, we have little involvement with the team at Powys, because Sarah's fortunate enough to have a very, very good team, but not every local authority is in that situation, as we all know. So we have guys who can help on requests. So Surrey, for example, County Council, we're doing stuff with them around social services at the minute.
Yeah.
But it does take time. I agree with Matt and Kay. There are two approaches you can take. You can either take what you've currently got and shift it quickly just to have those digital services still available. But the key, again, as Sarah's team have done over the years, is you always should go back and check and refine it, because it's never going to be perfect all of the time. There's always going to be an edge case. So yeah, I mean, we've recently had a client purchase a third-party bit of chatbot, which is reduced 80% of customer inquiries month on month. Breckland in Norfolk, they purchased Ubisoft, I think it is, chatbot. Right. So they seem to be getting on really well with that, and it's smashing the targets that they set themselves originally. And like I say, that's a third-party piece that their developers looking to plug in to our platform so that they can get more data out of it and see if there's any areas that it can't help with. So yeah, I mean, chatbots do work. Yeah. If the information's right and it can find what it needs to.
Brilliant. Ian, have you got anything to add to that?
Not specifically on that, just I would suppose as a general comment, I think the job of technology providers like ourselves is to not get in the way, essentially. If you're designing a process and redesigning it on Matt's Engage platform or elsewhere on Visio, I think that the job of the technology providers on this call is to ensure that when you've decided what your process is, it can be built digitally quickly and from then on refined. So it's really a case of this whole sort of journey into sort of low code, no code that the market is we've seen is moving into, and clients are able, like for example Hillingdon, to during the COVID pandemic build a winter grant process, case management process from scratch very quickly. And I think that's essentially the direction of travel that the local authorities need to be able to move in a quick and agile way, and need to have the tools to do it. So yes, design the process, yes, refine the process, but don't have a platform that gets in the way. So we and others are providing that enabling technology to enable this to happen.
Brilliant. I'm going to make one quick observation then before I come to Sarah. Are we just quickly saying that it's really to the point that you made there, Matt, which I think is quite interesting. Are we saying that a council that doesn't have that sort of business analyst function is unable to improve its processes? Or, you know, Matt, you might want to come in here or is it that with certain platforms you are, you know, it's just somebody, so maybe let's say a social worker will understand the process of doing I don't know, a common assessment framework, a CAF, an ECAF. So they would understand that. So they'll understand the parts of the process. So would they be able to, are we saying that you have to have a business analyst, or is it possible to have certain technology that will support people that aren't traditional business analysts, but understand their process, so they would be able to process improve?
I think where we've seen it, you need to have somebody impartial to be able to encourage the change.
Yeah, okay, brilliant.
Because otherwise it's like, well, that's how it's always been.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and also I guess they're busy doing the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think we've seen it. We recently did a whole market stalls booking platform for a client, and we pushed back on a fair few of the requirements and the specification. It's like, do you really need that? Well, we've always needed that. It's like, well, it's just another question on the booking form. You don't really need it. What do you need that data for? Okay, well, we don't. So you want to make it as simple for the person who's actually using it to do what they want to do in as quick a time as possible, and not just put in sometimes questions or tick boxes for because that's the way it's always been, and you do nothing with that data, which is what Paul mentioned earlier. You only ask for the data that you actually need.
Okay, brilliant. All right, smashing. So that's process improvement in an hour-long nutshell. and we've probably not even touched the surface, so that's plenty. But I guess the other thing that the use of technology, and I guess most importantly, sort of self-service technology over the last 2 years, is obviously the face-to-face. Although it had been face-to-face, the majority of it had been phased out. Certainly in a lot of English authorities over the previous 2 or 3 years, things like cash offices and fancy one-stop shops that, one-stop shops, people had spent millions. Everyone had been built these wonderful one-stop shops, and then all of a sudden they've been told to shut them down because they're too expensive. Now, maybe they should have done some process mapping and identified how much that face-to-face contact would have cost. But obviously, then we go into a pandemic where face-to-face contact is discouraged quite dramatically, and the self-service portal and the My Account all of a sudden comes into its own, because you've got 24/7, 365 year access. You can certainly engage with the council and also with organisations when you want to, when it's acceptable and suitable to yourself. And Sarah, if I can ask you to unmute. Hope you're still with us. You are.
Yeah.
Excellent. So you obviously have been doing a lot of stuff around the use of your My Account portal.
Yeah.
A lot of which you're very, very pleased with, and it sounds like you've been doing a lot of it during the pandemic. Do you want to share a little bit more about what you've been doing around your My Account?
Yeah, sure. How long do you want me to take, Nick?
How long have you got?
Don't say that to me.
Yeah, share us what you've been doing, and then let's have a chat around it, because I think I'm really surprised that a lot of local authority. There are, again, Derbyshire County Council. Keep coming back to my Derbyshire, and there others are guilty of this. But I'm surprised that with the advent of the private sector and certain organisations providing this facility to be able to conduct your business like your banks, whenever you particularly feel like it, and that might be 3 o'clock on a Saturday morning after you've been out on the razzle, and you want to check your benefit statement with a half a doner kebab down your front. Well, you can do, and if you want to. Recently, I don't know which. I was dealing with one of the energy companies, and all of a sudden I saw a chat box. I mean, I know this is not it is self-service to a degree, but I love chatbots and I love web chat. I can't, who would want to use a phone if you could web chat and well, certainly of my era, because I've got work to do and that sort of thing. But I just think, self-service portals, there are not enough local authorities using them. So tell us how you've been using it over the pandemic.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, brilliant.
I've got a couple of slides. I've got a couple of videos that I shot,
Excellent.
and then I've got a couple of slides at the end that show a couple of processes that we've implemented.
Go for it.
That interact with My Account. So let's choose a screen to share.
Yeah, that's working. Brilliant.
Right. Okay. Can you see all these people here on the side?
Yeah.
I'll move them out of the way. Oh, they won't go completely out of the way. So yes, okay, all right.
Can we all turn our cameras off just while Sarah's doing her? I'll turn mine off. Excellent. Away you go, Sarah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is my account. As I said, we're using the GOS ICM product. We initially launched the My Account in 2017 in a very basic format. Really, the benefits to the customer were about pre-populating forms and receiving an email at various points of a process. But back in 2017, we hadn't launched very many processes on digitally on the website. We had an aim to reach 50,000 customer accounts by the end of March 2022. And I'm pleased to say just the other day on Tuesday, we smashed that target. So I'm very happy about that. So this is what it looks like. You can log in as a member of staff. You can log in with your Facebook account, your Google account, or you can sign up and have a dedicated account for Powys here. Here are some stats. As I said, we just smashed that 50,000 customer account target there. Most people have given us their email address. We've enabled our customers over the years since 2017 to get more out of their My Account, being able to look up their housing tenancy account balance, being able to have a window through onto their council tax, which I'll show you in a moment, and most recently being able to opt in for council tax and business rates e-billing, and there are the figures circled in red that we're quite pleased with, really. Okay, I'm going to play you the videos now. This is what the My Account looks like. As you can see, there are windows onto services. There are even more windows below that, but it was too small to get them all on. You wouldn't have been able to see what they were saying. So here you can see there's the general profile information. This is test data. Don't worry, I'm not going to be sharing anyone's private data with you. In my demo here, this is a person who hasn't signed up to council tax yet, and I'll show you the process of them doing that. But here's, you know, an instant view. As soon as you sign in, you get your My Account screen presented to you, and instantly then you can see your bin collection days. You can quick link here into booking a bulky or a garden waste. You can see who your councillor is, and as we were talking about earlier, you've got a window onto your requests. So any of my requests that are currently in progress with the council, I can just click into them here, and as Nick described, I can see exactly what a customer services person would be able to see. You know, it's a window onto my data. It's my interaction with the council, and so I've got the right to see what's going on. I can see it, and our customers can just one click after they've logged in, just one click, go and see what's happening there. If I complete a form that is just longer than a simple form, we offer a save form option, and if I had any sort of semi-completed forms, they would all appear here. So I don't have to go hunting around for it, it's there in My Account. Okay, so I'll start the video now. This is the Powys My Account customer portal. It's our aim to provide a single safe place for our customers to view all information pertinent to them 24/7, 365. My Account currently provides windows of interaction with services such as council tax, refuse and recycling, rent accounts, business rates, and trade waste, all in one trusted place within the Powys website, without having to log on to separate customer portals. We aim to expand my account to cover my licenses, my housing, and more in the future. Let's take a closer look at the Paris My Account Council Tax interactive window. I've not signed up to the Council Tax online yet, so I get this message in the window. All I need to do to sign up is to click the sign up link. Put my council tax reference number into the box, validate my reference number, which behind the scenes is checking in the Northgate iWorld system whether there's a valid account for this reference number linked to this person's name and their address. I'm now going to opt in for paperless billing, read all the notices and confirm. And here you can see I've successfully opted in for paperless billing, and my council tax window now shows my council tax reference number, the outstanding balance, gives me an option to view this account, and below confirms that yes, I have opted in for paperless billing. To opt out from paperless billing, all I need to do is to manage my council tax, and I will be able to select an option there to opt out of paperless billing. I'm going to show you how we can view the account now. We click on this button to view. And here you can see we have an account summary. Our current payment method is monthly by card, cash or cheque. And here's an option to set up a direct debit. All we have to do is to fill the boxes with our details, select a frequency, 10 or 12 month, select a payment day, and proceed with our direct debit instruction. Also on this screen is a summary of reductions and exemptions, how the tax is arrived at, and the instalment plan. Because I've opted in for paperless billing, I can see a button here to look at bills and notices. Any new bills that I receive on my account will appear in this table. If it's a new bill, it will say new. If it's a bill that I've previously received in the post, it will say copy. I can now proceed to download that bill. And when it's downloaded, I'll be able to view it. Here's my bill, complete with the barcode if I wish to print out and take to the post office to pay. The bill is exactly the same as the customer would receive in the post. When a new bill is generated, an email is sent to the customer to let them know that the new bill is available to be viewed in their My Powys account. You can see now that now we've read and viewed this bill, the document status has changed to viewed. Okay, that's the end of the video. I'm going to show you the slides now, looking at a couple of processes that we actually introduced fairly early on in our journey, but we've iterated and improved upon over the couple of years. So this slide shows reporting a missed bin collection, which I'm sure we're all very, very familiar with, because it's the most important thing to all of our customers throughout the whole council. And this looks at how we can take it one step further from just purely being able to report a missed collection online. So as with everywhere, I guess, we all started off with our customers calling us, emailing us, sending their reports by phone or email into depots, into customer services, into the refuse central service. So difficult to keep track, customers uninformed, repeat customer contact into all these places across both these channels, phone and email. So not an ideal situation. So we move an online form to report your missed collection, and the intelligent, and so from the customer's address it knew which depot to send the online form, the report to, and also the form can update the customer by email to say, thank you, we've received your report, this will happen in X amount of days, etc., etc. And then, as you saw in the My Account under My Requests, this report of a missed bin would appear under My Requests there. And just by doing this, we managed to reduce our email and telephone contact by 50% and reduce our contacts forwarded to depots by 80%. But we didn't stop there. What we also did was we wrote a little process to allow staff in the depots who had no training on back-end systems and didn't really want any training on back-end systems, were too busy, etc., etc. We just gave them a little web page with a little text box and a pick list of the routes, and if the depots knew they had a problem on a particular route, they would select the route or a number of routes or all the routes and type a little message into the box to say, we know about this problem, this is when we hope to have it fixed, etc., etc., and a date picker for them to choose a fixed date or to leave open. And then what would happen was when a customer went to report a missed collection, as soon as they put in their postcode and their house number, then it would automatically go and look for a message in the back end, and if there was a message, it would display it. So this would reduce the number of people going on to make a missed bin collection, because obviously they can see we know about a problem. Here is our plan to fix it. This is the timescale. We also applied this lookup to the When's My Bin Day lookup tool. In case someone was thinking that bins may have been missed and then thought, perhaps, have I got my bin day right? They'd go and check their bin day and they could see, yeah, there's this problem. So on the next slide, I'll show you what happened. So back in, this runs from 2018, this was a situation, the blue relates to people self-serving and the orangey pink relates to people being served by assisted service, so over the telephone, and the customer services assistant basically doing exactly the same as the person sitting at home would do, but acting on behalf of the customer, which is a great feature of the COS platform. And you can see what happened over time. So not only did the number of missed bin reports reduce, the number of self-serving customers compared to the number of assisted service really reduced. So you can see the effect of our work in this graph, and I think it's quite powerful and quite nice to validate that the work that we've done was worthwhile and has had an impact on the service. So that was missed bins. The last thing I'm going to show you is commercial vehicle and trailer permits, which we refer to as CVT permits. This was very much kind of a new online process. The service were proposing that they would go about it the old-fashioned way and print leaflets that people could send in to ask for these permits. Basically, if you have a commercial vehicle or a trailer that you want to bring to a household waste and recycling centre, they don't want to let them in unless they've got permits, and you get 12 permits a year basically. And so they wanted to be posting out paper permits and forms and getting customers to send them back to the service. So there's this loop of paperwork going around involving lots and lots of admin. And you can imagine just how much admin when you can see that over 59,000 permits were issued this financial year. So that would have been a lot of paper flying around, a lot of postage, printing costs and admin to manage that. So we persuaded the service to work with us to produce an online process. And so we have an online form, intelligent form as usual. The online form updates the customer, the status appears in my account under my requests. When the form is completed, it goes to an admin area for admins who have the permissions to just pop on and check that the customer supporting documentation all checks out and is approved. And that worked very well. That was great. The permits were emailed to the customer rather than being sent out in the post. But we felt that there was still room for some improvement, and we listened to the feedback from our customers and we iterated and we decided to use QR codes. And so exactly the same process was followed, but when the permit was emailed out to our customers, it was emailed out in the form of a QR code. And this meant that customers could hold the QR code on their phones, and when they get to the waste and recycling centre, they present that QR code on their phone to the operative, who then just clicks through on his mobile device, automatically puts in the car registration number, and the system automatically checks our back end that we've written in the GOS platform to see whether or not this person has applied for permits, how many permits they've got left, are they allowed to come in, and they just press a button to say, yeah, this customer's allowed to come in. And when they press that button, it decreases the number of permits that that customer now has available. So it's down completely on the admin required, and also the requirement for the waste operatives to collect together all these bits of paper at the end of the day and send them back to head office for them to be marked as being used. Imagine the amount of admin going on there. When a customer's permits in the back office system come down to 11, then an email is sent reminding the customer that he's running out of permits. You should click this link to come and do a renewal. The renewal process is completely automatic. It's no touch, no admin. Similarly with lost permits, customers can come on, go through a process. It's no admin again. There's a little bit of admin involved in change of address because there's supporting paperwork needed to be checked that verifies the address. But all in all, we've managed to produce a really efficient service here with iteration, and we have an 88% customer satisfaction rating for this process. Here is some customer feedback. Very, very positive. People commenting that the process was simple and straightforward, that the response from the service was very fast. We ask our customers, was there anything we could do to improve this? Which is why a lot of them sort of say there's nothing you could have done better, couldn't fault the service. Quick and simple process. So we're really, really proud of that, and we're really, really happy. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity of presenting it to you. And if you have any questions, go ahead.
Right, people, do you want to put your cameras back on or mute? Sarah, that was brilliant. Absolutely excellent.
Thank you.
Really, well, just, I mean, some of this stuff is like, when you think that just that sheer volume of CVTs. In fact, while you were doing that talk, I was just checking to see how other people offered them, and you know, there's probably a lot of people, a lot of councils that could learn from that. I'm just interested to understand. So obviously with the bins and that sort of thing, I guess, because I've done a few events, activities around sort of waste and recycling bins, and bins is always that really interesting, quite emotive topic, bins, because a lot of time people get really upset and say, oh, you didn't, you know, you've missed my bin. It's like, well, no, it's not been missed. There's all sorts of stuff in it that shouldn't have been in it, or we had one session where someone had been refused their bin to be taken away because there was a dead badger in it, of all these things.
Nice.
But yes, but then bin and the bin routes, obviously it tends to be inclement weather, tends to be a really important and tends to be the main, from what I could gather, around, you know, people's bins not being collected for an amount of time. But what I'm really interested to know is these my accounts and self-service portals, I think, are brilliant. But how do you keep people engaged and returning? Is it very much a they need to receive an email to then be prompted to log into their My Account, or do you provide the sort of information? I guess if I was a My Account. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say about bins is it's actually one of those ubiquitous services that it doesn't matter whether you live in a block of flats or on a council estate or in the poshest part of Hampstead Heath. You've all got bins that need collecting, and it's something that we share. But then a lot of people, sometimes bins is actually their only sort of impact or only touch point with the council. I'm just wondering, you know, how do you keep your My Account citizen customers? How do you keep them engaged with their own portal? Do you have stuff like on there, like do highways feed in sort of you know, sort of road issues and that sort of thing? Because the sort of thing that really gets my goat is if I'm going to, say, Buxton, which is my local town, and all of a sudden I'm stuck on the main arterial road going into it, and there's like 2 or 3 sets of lights. If I'd have known that, I could have gone cross country, and that would probably drive me. I would probably visit my own My Account daily if there was that sort of information on it, and then that might mean that I might get other bits of information and content. So do you find that it's predominantly people are reactively responding, or do they naturally gravitate towards the My Account for other reasons?
I think, I mean, in Powys, there's nothing that you actually require. You must have a My Account in order to be able to access,
Sure.
Apart from the deep dive into your council tax situation. Obviously, for security reasons, we like to sort of be able to validate people, and so you need to have a My Account for that, and for the business rates, and for the trade waste, and for your housing rent account, actually. So apart from those things, there's nothing. I mean, traffic alerts, that kind of thing, is just available generally on our website and miss bins and the like, so that all customers have equal access to it. At the end of every process, when we, well, not even at the end, when we send emails throughout our processes to update our customers on what's happening, then there's always the bit at the bottom that says, and you can check what's going on if you access my account, click here, whatever. Our My Account page is in our top 10 always of our Google Analytics most frequently visited pages. So I think it's getting really, really good use. And I guess, I don't know, I mean, if people log in and then think, right, I'm going to log in and I'm going to go and complete an application form or a request or a report form, as soon as they log in, then they see my account. So if there's anything like new on there, then they're going to see it and they're going to consume the information on there. So I don't know, does that answer your question?
It does, but I guess also, well, it's also sort of brought up another, sorry people, if you want to ask a question, jump in, and because I will just keep asking questions. No, but what you've just said is quite interesting, because I'm just wondering if, does the, and maybe the guys at GOS can help out with this, but you know, when there is new information on there, because obviously you pointed out, Sarah, that page, there's more stuff under that page. Does new stuff get sort of surfaced at the top of the page? Because obviously a lot of people, I mean, you know, you look at the top of the page and sometimes you don't scroll down. Does that happen, or have I unfortunately identified a flaw in the GOS platform?
No, we can order it however we want.
Oh, right, okay. So you could do that so you could put any new information, any particular aspect of their sort of personalized My Account experience. If it's changed since the last time they've looked at it, that would appear at the top, would it? Or it would? No,
it doesn't happen as sensitively as that. No.
Right.
But if there's something we want to push, for example, you know, the paperless billing. So we moved to council tax right up to be the next one next to the profile information. So that it would hit them in the eyes that you're not signed up yet for.
Brilliant.
You know, click here to do it.
Excellent. Matt, you can have that as a free bit of product development.
It depends. It kind of depends, doesn't it, on the purpose of the portal? Because for most of us, the objective is not to get people to regularly visit the portal because it's interesting, but we want them to be able to do what they want to do with the council. And nobody wants to do stuff with the council. They want to do whatever they have to do with the council. They want to do it as painlessly as possible. My objective is no more than not to bother people. As in, if people conduct business with me, with the council, and don't notice it and don't complain, then that's a huge success. If they think it's fantastic, then we might be going over the top.
Yeah.
You know what
I completely agree. I mean, the way I look at it, and the way we all looked at it designing this new My Account was, think of your car insurance. So many people have car insurance portals now to go and visit, and they'll send you an email. They'll say your documents are ready, your policy's ready to view in your documents portal. Click here and go and look at it. I mean, how many people throughout the year go for a browse around their car insurance portal? Like, not unless you've had an accident.
Sarah. You'd be surprised.
Not unless Nick.
I mean, if something happens, like you have an accident and you want to check your schedule or your policy, and then it's nice to know that you can just click your bookmark and go there, and it's all there laid out waiting for you. And that was really the ethos behind the My Account. It's like, we have all this information on our customers. Why shouldn't they have access to it? And when they need it, if they've asked for a council tax discount, for example, and a few days time they want to go and check and see if that's been applied, now they can just like log on and click 2 clicks into view after logging on to go and view their account and look at it. So
I mean, what we do is in Wrexham is just make all the, for example, the press office, what was traditionally known as a press office, they have a news blog, and all their articles have a call to action, and almost all the call to actions are to do something. Now, it might be to take part in a consultation, which isn't part of our My Account, but a lot of the call to actions are things that are in My Account. And then the other thing to do is to do things that are in My Account that you can't do anywhere else. So all of our grant funding that we pushed out, such as the winter fuel one that's currently going out, all of that's done online only. And
same here.
And there's no other option, and it's amazing how how many people who are in the category of poor and who can't do things normally suddenly can find a computer and apply for a grant. So that's been a massive sign, increasing usage and sign-ups are doing things that you can only do online. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Does that? But is that also around? Do you offer some sort of assisted or supported support? I know you said because obviously it was on your graphs and stuff. I'm just saying with Rob, with that, well, obviously you're both that grant funding and Winter Fuels, you've got to do it online, and because we've done quite a bit of stuff around digital inclusion and exclusion. Like you say, a lot of people just like doing it the old way. A lot of people sometimes, I think, I know. Referred to that fella in Derby. They had this all singing or dancing one-stop shop, which actually turned out to be, there was a lot of people where it was their only social interaction during the week. They had no family, and actually going into a one-stop shop and having a bit of a crack with the two security guards, and then going to see someone, and I went to see him a couple of times, and I swear there was the same fella asleep on the very comfortable benches. And they said, "Oh, that's such and such." He's a high impact citizen, social services, mental health, that sort of thing. He comes in here because that's his only, we'd rather, when he's not in here, we worry. Which is not probably the role of a one-stop contact centre.
Well, I mean, our contact centre hasn't reopened after lockdown.
Right.
I mean, it has done for appointment only.
Yeah.
But the lockdown shut down everything, and that changed, that massively pushed digitally, not simply because there was no other option. And it's amazing how many people who refused and said they couldn't do anything digitally suddenly were able to. That just accelerated everything massively.
Well, I think also there's a big difference between, again, need and want, isn't it? There's people that want to do stuff in a certain way or want things. There's certain things that will need the Winter Fuel grant. So by hook or by crook, if that's the only way they can do it, they'll go and get family to help them or friends to help them. They will find a way. Yeah,
and absolutely. And I think that people have realised that it's not as difficult to do these things online that they suddenly needed to do because of the whole lockdown.
Yeah. And
even with a council, I think people have been surprised at what they can do.
Any other observations at all around sort of self-service and that sort of thing from anyone? Mr. Hewitt, do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah, just unmuting myself. I mean, I think with self-service, I reflect again back on the session the other day about user journeys, and if you remember, I was very impressed with some of the work that Birmingham City Council had done around supporting people who were not necessarily computer and IT literate, to help them, take them on that journey, to help them. And I thought it was quite an interesting session of the level of support and the engagement they had with citizens and people within their community to help them transition from what they would be used to, which would be typically contact center. They make a call in, and they don't need any technology apart from a telephone, and obviously moving them from where we would like them to go, which is more down the digital route, the online experience. And for a lot of people, that's a challenging transition, and obviously we've got to continue to support people in whichever communication channel they choose to exercise to engage with their councils. But obviously, as we all know, contact center communication is limited, typically 8x5. If we can start to move people to an online experience, that obviously opens up the spectrum to being 24/7, which is obviously more convenient to citizens. When it comes to reflecting on their case history of anything they've got open at the time, independent of which communication channel they choose, be it be it voice, be it chatbots, be it email, be it whatever vehicle, social media, that we need to be able to see immediately what cases are open and what the status of those cases is. This is about true delivery of citizen services, which is convenient to the citizen, increasing, and that's really what digital transformation is about. And it feeds back to what I said earlier, only presenting the information they request rather than presenting information which may not be relevant. Does that all make sense?
It does, and talked before about sort of the personalization of websites and that sort of thing. And again, I guess that in itself is almost pushing information at them. They've not necessarily requested it. We've assumed that by using I guess usually geographical data about their location, we're making the assumption that they want to know who they're, and even Sarah noticed, got it, this is who your counsellor is, putting a target on their backs. I mean, surely, that's a double-edged sword, I think, probably for counsellors. But no, I think there's got to be maybe a balance, because I think also it's maybe providing that sort of level of information, such that we've seen on the Powys My Account, gives enough, maybe, so they're getting the data they want, but they're also getting additional data that may be relevant, and it may be relevant because it's in their sort of their geographical area. And actually, by getting that additional data, you think actually this is a good medium for me to engage with the council, because I get this extra stuff. I didn't know that, and that's useful, because I'm going to go now email my councillor, one, to tell him what a good job the council's doing by providing this service, but also to give him an absolute rollicking because there's antisocial behaviour going on down my road, or blooming great big pothole that is, if it doesn't get fixed, I'm gonna paint the chief executive's name inside some sort of genitalia drawing, and they'll soon sort it out, which was done actually at a council. A local resident was very annoyed about potholes not getting sorted out, so they drew massive male genitalia all over the potholes with the chief exec's name in it, and they soon got sorted out. So yeah, so Sarah, I think that was really, really interesting. Really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time and coming to share that.
You're welcome.
I might have to come and knock on your door again at some point to share that in a self-service activity, because yeah, I do think that more authorities should be offering that sort of that degree of information to citizens. And I guess, Paul, you and I, we won't disagree on this, but I do think sometimes that additional data would enhance my. And I get what Rob's saying. We don't go and check our car insurance, but I know in my bin day, I know. Well, again, my wife chastises me because I know it's every Thursday. Although without fail, I will forget. Usually, put the brown and green bins out on recycling day when they're at their fullest, and I need to fill them again. And so I don't know whether then you can take that one level further, Sarah. And if someone ticked a box, you could use Gov Notify to send them a text the night before saying, get your bins out, get your brown, green. For my area, it'd be get your brown and green bin out, or get your black bin out. That is a service actually I would probably pay for.
It's a great idea. The problem is with Gov Notify, you have to upload everything each time.
Right.
It's each and every load of emails you send, you have to upload it. They don't store it. There's no storage, so you'd have to have a process that does every day, runs. So we have, it's painful, but it could be done.
Yeah, if the waste service changes their bin day for that particular week due to whatever, then our system can react and say, no, this is your bin day, but you'd have to sort of make sure that the notify process tied into that as well. So
and then we have the added problem of Welsh, which has been touched on. I was going to ask you, Sarah, but with your billing, one thing you did say which intrigued me is you said this is an exact copy of what was sent to the customer about council tax. Now, we cannot send a bill in English. We have to send it bilingually. It's not possible. Because we've been upheld by the Welsh Language Commissioner multiple times from complaints. So how do you deal with that? Or have you just not had the complaint, so you've just not had to worry about it yet?
No, of course we've thought about that because we're aware of our requirements. What we do is in the My Account profile, we take language preference, written and spoken.
Yeah.
So if a customer has, indicated that their written language preference is Welsh, then any communication that they see, all their letters and notices within their My Bill and their actual bill and everything will all be in Welsh.
No, I understand that bit, but you said it was an exact copy of what they get sent. So are you saying what they get sent isn't in English only? It is bilingual?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I probably should have made that clear when I was presenting. Yeah, it's the English version of exactly what they get sent. Okay. We do send it bilingually, and that's a big thing actually, because I didn't realize this, because I've been fortunate enough to be in a situation where my council tax situation is quite straightforward. So I'm on direct debit and I get my bill once a year and that's it. That's all my involvement done. But I do know, and I found since going through this process, that a significant number of people have their council tax situation changed throughout the year, either through moving house, just being in temporary accommodation and moving into a different accommodation, from going on benefits, off benefits, a council tax reduction, no longer qualifying for that. Each time they get sent a bill, and depending on their situation, this bill can be even 6 pages long, and then that's 12 pages, including sending it bilingually. So imagine sending 12 pages several times a year to 69,000 households in Powys. So there's quite a lot of paper and postage cost, isn't it? So yeah. So they only see the English version if their language is English, and likewise if it's Welsh on the digital version.
Okay, no, that's right. I was just, because the latest one for us has been, and I'm sure you've experienced this potentially, I don't know if you use Gov Delivery or anything like that for email marketing type stuff, but we've had the ruling that you have to, anything that's sent that isn't personal has to be bilingual. Right. So now all of our generic comms have to go out bilingually, unless you've signed up in Welsh, in which case they can go out in Welsh only.
Yeah.
But you can't treat. But if it's not Welsh, so you have to treat it as bilingual.
We don't use that service, but yeah, I can understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been a bit of a nightmare. So everybody's, because we ask people's preference of language, but because the communication isn't personal, it can't be sent in that language choice. It's ridiculous. We fought it very hard, but there you go.
Yeah.
That's the additional pains that you guys in Wales have. And we felt it in, I know we've discussed this at in-person events before, and then the actual sort of the percentage of Welsh speakers in comparison to some of the population was quite astounding. But that's quite it's a cultural hot potato, which I'm not going to pick up. Because
no. This is even
though it is being recorded, and God forbid if I don't want to go down that route. Anyway, look.
Well, I'll make one statement, okay? In Powys, our number of people from our 50,000 customer accounts, our percentage of people wanting Welsh a spoken language is something like 0.6%, and those wanting written Welsh is just 1%.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's an expensive thing for serving such a small percentage of people.
Don't say it, Paul. Don't say it. Don't get yourself into trouble. Don't go down on recording. Just controversial.
Just making the observation.
Yeah. Well, look, Sarah, thank you once again. Thanks to all of you for staying on. That's been a really interesting session. I'm going to send everyone the recording and the transcript, but I'm going to try and have these every couple of months, like a get together. I think next time there'll be a bit more structure to it. But I'd like to thank you for sharing what you've been up to.
Yeah, well done.
You're welcome.
And Rob, at some point maybe we can get you to share what you've been doing around your process improvement and process mapping, because I really like to expand on that.
Yeah.
Nick.
Yes, Sarah.
If anytime you're going to focus on not only improving the customer journey, but also looking at, you know, the things end to end, and particularly the what happens in the back end.
Yeah.
When we did winter fuel payments and the other business restrictions grants that came straight afterwards,
Yeah.
we built a really good sort of auto approval or reject process depending on the eligibility and the business rules around the form. And it automatically sent it off for a bank fraud check, and then it came back, and then after that it was, so some of them were subject to manual approval, but I think about 50% were able to go through automatically on this process and then produce a file for bulk upload into our eFin system, because we don't have APIs into it, so it just had to be imported in a file, but you know, that's no big deal. So we're quite pleased with that.
Excellent. That sounds, is that something you would share, the process?
Yeah, no problem.
Excellent, brilliant. Right, I shall be following you up on that then. Well, look, that's been brilliant. I will send you all the recordings and the transcript and the sound file. I need to have myself a SoundCloud account, I guess, and we'll start having these little podcasts. But yeah, brilliant contributions from all. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks.
See you.
Thanks for the
Bye,
event.
everybody.
Cheers, Nick.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Just
Sarah.
before you go, God, right. So, this, I should have had this at the beginning, so more for me. I'll remember to ask it next time. Let's say, in the summer, as of the summer, how bothered are people about, see, as you can see from behind me, does anyone, Sarah, do you know where that is?
Welshpool?
No, so that is the Metropole Hotel in Landridge.
Oh, it's the Met in Landod, yeah.
Yes, so up until 2 years ago, that is where we would stay, and then we would go to the MRC, the MRC to do the in-person events. I'm wondering, and we'll be asking everyone now for the next couple of months, what's the appetite for getting back together in person? I miss it because it means I get to leave the Peak District, which I love, but it means I can come and have a beer with some people, and I can go to Didrod, and I can go to Glasgow and Exeter and that sort of thing. What's the appetite? Because I'm not too sure. We can do so much on these sessions, and I think they're better than nothing. They're certainly better than I hate webinars. I want to be able to have to chat with people and get people involved and get discussion going and that sort of thing. But how, Rob, Sarah, in particular, what's your organisation's sort of standpoint, and what's your own personal standpoint?
I think personally, I do like getting together face to face with people. I like having a drink at the bar with them, etc., etc. It's nice then because you can get involved in chats that are relevant to you, rather than sitting and listening to a chat that perhaps isn't so relevant to you.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's, if you're presenting something, it's easier to do it online, rather than getting up in front of people and wondering if your technology is going to work, and if the connection to your servers is going to work from this building, etc., etc. So it's a double-edged thing, really.
Right. Okay.
And the other thing is, I think you'll find it's a two-edged sword, isn't it? I agree, it's good in person, but I don't know what it's going to be like for. I mean, for example, you wouldn't have got probably myself and Kay necessarily in the same time in the same meeting, and I don't know how many people you're going to get from South Wales coming up to a meeting in Llandrindod.
Oh no, they do. They do.
I know, but I don't know how many.
And you're right. I just wonder. I'd still maybe want. I'd say to people, look, we're all grown ups. Let's lateral flow test. Let's be responsible. I'd love to, go to Wales or again and, do a little in-person event. I think there'll be less. They'll be hybrid, I think. Anyway, I think now it's almost like that digital inclusion. You've got to provide, both channels. And actually, I think there'll be less of them. And actually, I was almost thinking they were almost more afternoon type things, which then you go off to the bar, like Sarah said, you go off to the bar, I'm not talking about sort of, you know, behaving like the local rugby club, but going to a couple of sociable drinks and, you know, having a chat and sort of taking, you know, sort of other discussions from the event offline, as it were, and just having a bit of social networking, which I think even, you know, even the most introverted of people, you know, I think I've been sat behind this bloody desk for 2 years.
I think
And,
it's,
you know,
I think it's
a nightmare.
different. I think it's different for everyone, though. I mean, we pinged out a quick survey recently about our user group.
I know you
in
did.
April.
Yeah.
And I think it was about 88% said online, please, because we spread it in kind of hour chunks over a few days, rather than one day having to go out the office. You know, work pressures were quite a lot of the reasons.
Yeah.
There's too much to do. You know,
Yeah.
we've got to fight to get the budget approval
yeah.
to be able to go out and all that sort of thing. People do want to do it because, like you, 2 years of being in the same place, hardly having any social interaction with colleagues, it does make you start rocking sometimes. But
yeah. Thing is, I wouldn't take it personally, Matt, but I've met Simon Smith and Andy Orchard, your colleagues. I'd probably want to have a virtual.
I was talking about Ian.
Yeah. But you're right, you know, at the end of the day, and also these things, like Rob just pointed out, they're so easily accessible. You know, you couldn't do. I guess this is the interesting thing. You couldn't do. You know, I tried doing with LocalGov Camp virtual full days on Zoom, 5 full days, one after another. You know, by the end of it, I wanted to go to the pub, but I just physically couldn't.
Yeah, and the other benefit of online is you can record them, so
Record them, share
other
them.
people can then see them who haven't been able to get to that particular time.
Well, anyway, look, we'll try, you know, by hook or by crook. If by, you know, I'm going to make sure by September we have all been to. I will take you all for a drink in this wonderful establishment behind me. We'll all meet up in Llandudrod Wells before September. But look, enjoy the rest of the day. I'll get these recording out to you. But thanks very much for your contributions. Been really interesting, most informative, and we'll have another catch up in a couple of months' time. But yeah, take care. Sarah, thanks again.
Thank you.
Rob, take care.
Nick.
Dave, Matt, take care.
Bye, everyone.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.